This video is brought to you by our amazing supporters over at Patreon. Hey everyone, it's Ben from Board to Bits, and today we need to talk about game managers. The story usually goes like this. You're working on a game, and you're being a good game dev, and writing simple scripts that each tie to one part of your game, with components that attach to the appropriate game objects and everything. Then you find yourself working on a piece of code that doesn't quite fit into any of the buckets in your game. It's too high level. So you create an empty game object and a new C# script called GameManager. You think this is a great solution, and Unity seems to agree with you. In fact, when you add a GameManager component to a game object, under the script reference, you can actually see that Unity adds this little gear icon as if to say, hey, this is an important script. You think you've created this superclass that can handle all the high-level stuff that your other classes can't. What you've actually created, though, is a junk drawer. Don't feel bad, we've all done it, either here or in other classes, but because of the nature of the game manager itself, I can say with confidence that if you start adding methods and data to a game manager, you will end up with a class that's hundreds of lines long with a bunch of unrelated content stuffed into it. This happens for two reasons, and both are tied to the very name of the class, and names are important. They're how you filter and process your code as a developer. The problem is that game manager means nothing, and it means everything. Which sounds like semantic garbage, and it kind of is, but bear with me. The first problem is that game manager means nothing. If you saw my file organization video, I recommended not putting assets into your assets folder directly because then you're not really organizing those. The same thing goes with code in a game manager class. It's such a high-level class that putting code into it doesn't really give that code a specific place in your game. And you should never have an asset or code that you can't really describe how it fits in your game. If you do, that is a red flag and you really need to resolve that before moving forward. The second problem is that game manager means everything. So you may be saying, well, my game manager doesn't mean nothing. Like I said, it means it's a place for the stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else. Don't you remember the start of this video? Well, that's all well and good, but chances are over time, you're not going to be viewing the code through that lens anymore. You're calling this class a game manager, so your explicit criteria for it is code for managing your game. And by that criteria, you can rationalize putting pretty much any code into this class. Saving and loading data? Makes sense. Tracking and managing high scores? Also seems reasonable. Organizing and loading levels? Sure, why not? Tracking enemies in the levels? Well, we're already loading the levels in here, so okay. Maybe tracking enemy AI? It becomes a slippery slope. So, should we just abandon the game manager? No, I think we just need to use it in a different way and possibly rename it while we're at it. Managers are a good thing in games. They help organize things and can be critical to avoiding conflicts between different elements of your game. But just like every class should have a specific role to play, every manager should focus on a particular element of your game. Where the game manager comes into play is keeping track of all of these. Let's say your game has an input manager, an audio manager, a visual effects manager, level manager, and an enemy manager. You can attach all of those to a single game object, and this could still be called a game manager. That still seems reasonable. From here, however, we want to create some kind of hub component that can organize all of these other components. Maybe we just call this managers. Then we can make this a singleton so that we have easy access to it from anywhere, and add some variables for all of our other managers, which we can grab with some getComponent methods on awake. So now, instead of a jam-packed class with a bunch of disparate methods, what we have is a convenient way to access all the other managers in our game. In short, game managers shouldn't be about micromanaging a variety of different methods you couldn't find a place for. Rather, they should be about organizing and delegating to lower-level managers to keep everything in your game running smoothly. That's my opinion, at least. Feel free to tell me how you use game managers in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.